You okay?
Thank you. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Moving to if there's, for an agenda today, we're here to talk about the, cost sharing formula. And that's a follow on from yesterday's meeting where we deliberated and I believe came to some consensus on regional designation for, the aquatic center. And, yeah, with that, that's not no conflict of interest. Can you come, oh, can I get approval of the seconder?
Was there an agenda?
Wow, it's not with the formula.
Continuation of yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Good. I was very good. So conflict of interest, any conflicts of interest to declare? I thought I'd ask that again from yesterday. No conflicts? Let's jump into the discussion on it and the formula. I do want to give just a little background. So after yesterday's meeting, and I know in particular, some of the things we talked about is there's a mention of decoupling of of a regional, a designation of an asset as being regional from cost. And I guess at the very end of the meeting, we talked a little bit about how important it is to get into the cost aspect of it, because it is also part of our mandate as in terms of what we recommend back to government. And with that, when we looked at last evening at the Regional Services Delivery Act, and it actually is quite clear in the act. And I'm just, we've got copies of the act over here, but I highlighted a few areas. So under 3.1 of the Regional Service Delivery Act, item D, the mandate of the commission is to identify sport, recreational, central infrastructure in the region, to apportion the costs attributable to that infrastructure among its members, and to ensure the management of any resulting agreements or contracts. Jumping down to 3.4.3, the commission shall prepare a report from the minister on a report of June 30th each year. A report shall include a list of all infrastructure identified in accordance with subsection B, a list of under subsection 2, and the proposed budget for the following year with respect to the portion of costs attributable to the infrastructure referred to in paragraph B. So the other thing we can go back to is, in the absence of resolution of the board, the Powers of Regional Services Delivery Act states that for the purposes of subsection 19(2) of the Act, in the absence of a resolution of the board, the costs attributed to regional infrastructure shall be apportioned as follows: 50% of the cost based on the tax base of the local government or rural district for the previous year, and 50% of the cost based on the population of the local government or rural district. So, in the absence of us giving, coming up with our own, the powers are with government to fall back on the 50/50 assessments and population. So, any comments?
We want to avoid that.
We want to avoid that. We want our own destiny. That, and I couldn't agree more. And I think every time I sit around this table or I'm together with elected representatives, such as last week with the advocacy days, I hear that over and over again. Let's control our own destiny, because we should understand our region better than anybody. And in particular, that was one of the key tenets of reform. Better representation for the people, because we're closest to the people. So, any other comments from anyone? No? So everybody's had, I know people have received the actual electronic copy of the calculator. Maybe what we can do is just pop it up on the screen and talk about the inputs.
Sure.
Revives everybody, or sorry, we go through all the things that are in the inputs. so to speak.
Sure, Mr. Chair. So good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. And those who are joining us virtually as well. I'm gonna share the screen with the calculator. Okay. Folks online, I'm assuming you can see the screen. So basically, folks, like you mentioned, Mr. Chair, it's a model that's different than the alternative model. That's the whole purpose. Otherwise, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. So when we were trying to come up with this calculator, we solicited input from the infrastructure committee and focused more on the discounts piece. The discount factors for distance, time traveled, in addition to like facilities or similar facilities that you have, that residents have access to in the communities. Those are the guiding principles. And we also wanted to develop a model that's relatively simple to use and understand. And it's as fair as possible as well. Obviously, when there's a pie, and let's say the cost is the pie, and it's distributed amongst a finite number of entities. If somebody ends up with a bigger pie, somebody else would have a smaller pie and vice versa. So with that in mind, with the background that the provincial guidelines strictly specify population and tax base 50%, and although they mention distance and other discount factors, but without giving an exact factor, we were trying to come up with a factor that would make sense to the infrastructure committee to recommend to the board. So this said, we're going through the calculator here. You'll see for each community, there's the time traveled in minutes and then the distance traveled in kilometers. So there's a time and distance factor, which is the average of those two figures. And then there's a collective average, which is in this case is 29.9. So any community that has an average that is above the 29.9 will get a discount for every point above that average. And these points are then multiplied by a factor of 3.5%. So anybody who has a travel time and distance above 29.9, for example, Arcadia, Harvey, Nacogdoches, Millville, and Central York, and Grand Lake, they would get a discount over and above the provincial model, which is strictly tax-based and population. Now that discount is passed to the host community. So you either do not get a discount in this model if you are in the proximity of the asset, or you do get a discount and ultimately somebody has to pay that, whatever people get in discount, and it's the host community that would be ending up with that amount.
And that threshold is 29.9.
If you were above, yes, and that is the collective average of all the travel time and distance of all entities. That's how the 29.9 came about. So less than 29.9, you're not getting any discount. Over you are. And any discount anybody receives is then picked up basically by the host community. In this case, when we're talking about the aquatic center is Fredericton.
And what was the rationalization for that?
The host community
That
would,
would pick up the discount.
the simple fact that there's a discount, somebody has to, if somebody getting a discount, then it's a finite pie, then somebody has to pick it up. If it's passed over to other entities, let's say, that do not get a discount, like New Maryland and Hanwell, then this model becomes more costly to them than the alternative model, which is the provincial guidelines, basically. Because they already contributed 50% on tax base and population. Now, if they're gonna pay extra for the discount, then this model becomes more costly,
As it does for Fredericton as well, significantly.
as it does for Fredericton as well. Correct.
In the situation, because you're the host. So the other benefit I see as a host, if you want to build this in Oromocto, is it's closer to my immediate citizens. I gain the revenue from the tax base. So that's beneficial to me and, down the road. As well as, well, those are probably the two main things, so.
And it's not closer for all of our residents. I think that's my struggle all along, is people in Pepper Creek are further away than than some of the other communities, right? So it's.
In the time distance travel, yeah, there's gonna be anomalies within the city where you're actually further than, say, somebody in New Maryland, no doubt.
And the same anomalies would exist in our, I'm an 826 square kilometer
For
community.
sure,
Yeah.
you'll have it definitely.
Hour and 45 minutes from one end to the other in some respects, so.
Yeah, and
It's such an imperfect,
it's not perfect for sure, but it's a good base to start, and I'm sure if Mr. Forsyth was here, he'd look at that 28.4 and go, wow, I got parts of my community that are actually like further away than, say, Minto or Chipman.
Yeah, I can even say that with Central York, like by the time I get to Grand Mountain, there's a lot of distance, but you gotta say it. You take the central point
Right.
of each municipality.
Yeah,
So say we accept that premise, host city accept travel discount.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
the travel and time.
oh, yeah.
Change
travel
Any
and
dis-
time.
any
The
discount.
travel discount is distance and time.
Distance
The
and
travel,
time.
yeah, so it's the travel discount that we're picking, that the host city.
Every discount,
right.
we'll get to the like for like, so any discount,
It's the latter one, I'll struggle.
yeah, okay. So, any discount anybody gets has to be picked up by somebody. And early on in the discussions, it was established that since the asset is in the host community and the spin-off benefit and simple cost of being a host, I guess, relative to, the other alternative, if we look at it from, the perspective of the other entities, this model would, we assume that they wouldn't prefer a model that's more costly than the provincial model. Hence this model should be equal or better than the other alternative. So.
I just have to say, and not to be problematic, it's just so funny that every other community expects that. But we're not allowed to expect that, right? Like everyone, it has to be better, everyone has to say, well, we gotta come up with a model that's better for us, obviously, than the government one. This model's worse for us, and we're accepting it because it was good for the region. So I'm just pointing that out, I'm accepting the travel discount. Fredericton accepts that for all the reasons you stated, and also, even though we're paying significantly more, I accept it because the region needs this. So we're taking that on. Right, I feel a need, one should not have to point out when they're being gracious, but I think it gets forgotten a lot in our conversations, so. I just want to say,
I acknowledge that, and
it's important.
the thought is, in my opinion, I'm hoping sometime our time
Yes.
comes around.
But will you be able to afford it? Like, that's my concern with any formula we build, right? It's one thing, Fredericton's the host city this time, so we can figure out how to absorb that difference. smaller communities, I would like us to build a formula that we can be utilized in any time, over and over.
The formula should be consistent,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be flipping pieces of the formula back.
To
No,
make it work, and I fear that's what.
Because right now, it's project A is in Fredericton.
Mhm.
Project B, C, and D could be, we don't know where in the future, and it could be maybe 20 years. So
Mhm.
the formula needs to be consistent, in my opinion, to
Yes.
keep everybody on board. Yes, Fredericton's gonna take the discounts this time. The next time, it might be a small community, but it certainly won't be a pool. It'll be something different that a small community will deem as regional, and the other municipalities will also. But we need to keep that formula
Mhm.
consistent so that whether you're a large community like Fredericton, or whether you're a small community like Grand Lake or Nackwick Mill or whatever, it needs to be consistent. I can live with the time and distance, and I think that's fair.
Mhm. And but do we think that those other communities will be able to absorb the discount? I can live with the travel discount too. I'm just thinking in general, this general conversation, I just wonder, will small communities be able to absorb any discount?
In the foreseeable future, the reality is no, they won't. I can. I can absorb discounts. I've already taken this, because sometimes the focus is on Fredericton, so I flipped it and said, put the focus on Oromocto, let's work the calculator that way. So then you can see that I'm taking now the discount that is being applied to you. And so now I'm the gracious one,
Yeah.
and I can afford it too, I think.
Yeah, I think.
But anyone below us, no, they're not yet,
Yeah.
well,
but we gotta start somewhere.
well, I'm looking
Fair
at
enough,
it
yeah, you're right.
for the growth, let's look at it for Arcadia as part of the region. This makes for a healthier and more vibrant region so that people can see Arcadia as a place to live. So we can get those professionals that are looking for all these things to relocate to just New Brunswick. And I'd like to see them look at our region. We're not gonna have an aquatic center. Already, my folks in Arcadia are driving to either Oromocto to their pool or Fredericton,
Right.
some combination thereof. There may be a small portion that go to St. John. But I know we need these types of infrastructure in order to grow. Will our time come to be 70,000? Maybe, but I likely won't be around for it. But this allows us to grow, allows us to share the burden of growth in New Brunswick and that region.
But it may not even be a 70,000 bar,
No.
because like I said, this is an aquatic center,
Yes.
it's very expensive.
Mm.
There could be something else that's lesser expensive and still be deemed regional, that a smaller community may afford. Will any of them afford an aquatic center? Probably never. But when I look at my neighbor to the northwest, which is in Nackwick, I have to take them into consideration because I'm a director of the board and I need to take all municipalities into consideration, even Fredericton. Like I have questioned why they're picking up Oromocto's discount. So when I look at Nackwick, they're a one industry town, basically. The mill has faltered once. And if it falters again, where are they gonna stand? A one industry town.
I thought about this and I had this question which you had. I mentioned I called him on it and said, this formula, we're trying to do the best we can right now. Situations change over time. Let's hope we all prosper every single year. Population assessment goes up. I have a hard time saying assessment going up because I get hit with it all the time. But we know that may not be the case, and communities may decline in population or decline in assessment. And in the case of a faltering community with their key piece of employment, that would in turn affect this formula for them at that year, because year over year, the costs get reapportioned based on growth of those things. So it doesn't make it a perfect formula, but I think it takes some of that into account. And I take your point really to heart about, the fact that we may not be looking at our pool. And I look at our assets in Arcadia, which are high, from the nature perspective, it's very high. And I look at the discussions we have let's say that David Seabrook on what we bring to the table from a tourism perspective. It could be something very much water-based. It could be some sort of a paddling network or infrastructure for whatnot. And he sees that as a big opportunity for us to help Fredericton
Mhm.
and help ourselves, for people to, spend more time in this part of the, world.
But will you absorb our travel discount to it? Like, does that feel, I don't even, does
I
that
get- I
feel
get-
fair? Like, are you,
my
that,
point
this is
to
what
this
this is
too.
the discussion,
Yes,
really,
yes.
right? Like, it's the host community absorbing, and in this case, Fredericton can figure it out financially, but will every community be able to figure out when they're the host city, absorbing other people's discounts? My gosh, it won't even feel comfortable asking your residents.
But they
to
won't be
pick up
as
my-
large, there won't be as large a discount, Kate,
Yeah, that's- and
as what Fredericton is looking at with the
Yeah,
aquatic
that's
center.
true,
Like,
because-
we're looking at a huge investment.
Yeah, and that.
A smaller community will have a smaller, if it ever comes to that, a smaller regional, whatever it is.
So you would see being comfort, I mean, I think if everyone says, yeah, this will apply no matter the project, the host city will pick up the travel discounts, then I'm fine with it.
Well,
I can live with it.
we do have if you look at cell B3, it gives us the opportunity to tweak each time. That's that 3.5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
there's some things inside of it that we can tweak based on the nature of the piece of infrastructure.
But Mr. Chairman, when I look at this form, that Nackwood Mill pays 0.26 on this
This is.
structure right here. And I think if anything faltered, if they lost their primary industry, they probably still could live with 0.26. And that's only because they're so far away. But if this pool, let's say, was built in Central York, Nackawik would be paying a lot more, and it would be a lot more devastating to, not that we could afford this, but, you know, it's in Fredericton. It makes it further away from them, and I think the formula this formula is doable. To them, being a small, populated, basically one industry municipality.
I just would like to caution to the group as well, I mean. When we take our criteria for what we may consider regional in this day and age, you're not gonna find any regional project that's gonna be under $25 million. It's just, I don't see it. I don't see us considering a project that's regional, that's $2 million in this day and age. If we factor all the criteria in, it's just, it wouldn't be realistic to assume that there's a quote smaller project out there that we're all gonna deem region. These things are big money, I mean,
Are you talking 25 million before government input or after?
I'm talking before, right?
Okay.
So I'm taking half the price of what I,
Right.
cause pools are generally more expensive, no doubt, but. Any project, that you end up doing that fits our criteria of accessibility and all the things we talked about yesterday. And we're all gonna sit here and say, oh yeah, that is truly a regional asset. It's gonna be a lot of money.
I agree with you 100%. $25 million, no matter what you do, is not a ton of money today.
No.
And if you take your government inputs after that, it's substantially less, and that would bring you down to 8, 9, 10,000 municipalities may be able to handle that in the future, whatever the project may be.
John?
Go with Don first,
Okay.
and then I'll come back
Don?
to see how to stand up, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just observed that we don't know what types of projects will come in the future. This model provides, as has been noted, provides an opportunity to amend the travel discount, the like facility discount, all the years of payment, interest rate, all of the project-specific criteria. In the future, the board will have an opportunity to say, well, what's right for this type of project? So I think that we have flexibility in this model, and I would also suggest that that flexibility is a good thing. If we get something that's locked down too hard at this point in time and can't be changed, we may regret it in the future.
I would add that, that's my fear of what's in the Regional Service Delivery Act as the default 50/50. That doesn't allow the people around, sitting around this table and then the board to have that, like, any flexibility built into it. That's a concern to me. And John, to your point on projects of this size not coming along very often, I feel this is the process working when we're here talking about it and deliberating on whether something's regional or not and coming up with a formula based on our communities and what they bring to the region. I think that is good. I think that is a very good thing, because we throw everything on the table with all of our perspectives and versus having things pushed down our throat by any other government entity, saying, this is the way it is. And we've seen models like that happen elsewhere in this province. So,
This process.
yes, this process itself, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I think you and Don summed up everything I was gonna say, but the other side of that coin is as well, is that we're looking at this is a regional, you know, I think we've accepted in general principle, and this is a regional project. And then we look at other projects and they may be, on a smaller base, they may be sub-regional. Maybe this is a model that can be looked at within that frame, or we have to look at it, the model in a different frame. And that's why those flexibilities are so important when we do that. So that sub-regional may be shared amongst, you know, three communities as opposed to the entire region. So it all depends on the location, the size, and the scale and scope. I mean, we have criteria that we had to go through yesterday to really articulate, is it regional or sub-regional? And we came to a consensus, you know, it's regional. Now we've got to get the apportionment of cost to some degree that we can support and make that recommendation to the board. And there's, you know, I guess, you know, there's some that feel that there's an urgency to it and, you know, but we want to get it right as well. So we're willing to recommend to the chair and to the vice chair of the board, one which may be sitting here, to call a couple of special meetings, as we said yesterday, in order to make sure that we fully address this and give the full information and bring that forward. So, but I think the focus today has to be on, is there a model that this group can agree upon to recommend forward to the board?
Even if we have sub-regional, 3 or 4 municipalities, if we go with the time and distance formula, it still should work fair.
Yes.
Yes.
If we stick to the one formula. That's my
Very
very,
applicable.
So I can, for me, I'm comfortable with, I like the one formula too. I'm comfortable with host community picking up travel discount because of the benefits that it will bring to that. I'm struggling with the next discount part though. When we're ready to move on.
So we're good with travel and time, Grant?
Yeah, just, Jihad, clarify for me if you can, like, how did we get to the 3.5% for the travel discount?
When we looked at the geography of the region and, we heard the discussion around the table, if somebody's driving more than an hour, it's likely that they're not gonna use the asset. So we looked at, further away folks, and that would fit the bill in this case. And we worked it kind of backwards, so, that's how the 3.5 was established as a starting point. We came back to the committee with this rationale. And at this point, it's still 3.5, but that could change. Anything above 3.5 would make some folks not contribute at all. And the intention was to make everybody pay something because it's regional. So that something is, in this case, small, but it's still something. So that's how the 3.5 was established as a starting point. But it's open for discussion and
So it was essentially just to ensure everyone contributed something, right?
And if you're more than 50 minutes away and you're driving for lots longer, then chances are less likely that you will be using the asset as frequently, and hence it should be discounted heavily. So
Because there are some alternatives out there for some parts of, some of our communities, like in say, online.
Well, I was gonna say.
There's a portion that can go towards St. John. Nacogdoches, there's a, you know,
Portion.
Head up the highway. you
Yeah.
know, so it just felt like.
So as a committee, I guess, if we're going to recommend the model and those like that, the travel discount, and if we go for like facility discount, those are sort of set arbitrarily. We probably should develop some sort of a guideline that explains how those might change depending on the type of facility or even how they sort of they came to be for this model. Like, so it is kind of a generic going forward.
At the very least, an explanation.
Yeah,
as to how we got to.
We need that, all the variables so that it can be seen as its repeatability, and I think we have a bunch of that available. Well, you readily spoke to it.
We can include the rationale as to, in the report.
Yeah.
As to why we get to a certain figure, but we didn't do that because we don't know what that figure is like until it gets confirmed at this table, basically. You
Yeah.
can choose to have it at, I don't know, 3%, 3.25, 3.4, so that was the recommended or suggested figure.
Go ahead.
I have a question for Gina.
Yes,
This 3.5, if the location was to change somewhere else,
Okay.
would the 3.5 trigger a 0 in some places? Because I think we need to stay away from ever coming to a 0.
And that's the
Everybody
rationale.
needs to pay something.
That's how we came to the 3.5 in this specific location. We looked at the furthest away community and made sure that they pay something.
But when
So if it's moved, if it moves further towards Ormacto, let's say, then that 3.5 will put them in the negative. So it means it has to be ramped back to 3.
yes, because we come to the conclusion that nobody should be in for 0. They
That's
need to be
what we
in,
heard.
need to have some skin in the game.
That's what we heard.
So I guess what I'm coming at, the 3.5, if we adopt the formula, the 3.5 should be variable in the future, depending on location.
Mr. Chair, yes, the idea here is that you're not adopting the factors, the exact numbers. You're adopting the principles
Mhm.
and the guiding principles, and these factors will change depending on the type of asset you're building and the location
Mhm.
and other considerations.
All
That's
that-
why it's not one size fits all, and I guess that was determined in a previous meeting. This is not one size fits all. This captures the general principle.
but for the purposes of what we're here to, from a regional aquatic center perspective, I'd like to see us come forth with a recommendation from the board on the formula and the factors. Right, for this case, not to come into.
I would make them two separate
Yeah.
motions. First off, there's a
Factors need
motion.
to be variable.
Yeah, the formula is what we're recommending be adopted,
Yes.
the factors for this specific project.
And which we're recommending as well, the
Yeah.
factors that we're recommending for this particular project, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like, my thought is we've deliberated here a lot on both formula and factors. On the factors perspective, we've come up with something that, we may come up with something that seems to work. It's just not to go in and start plugging in new numbers. A recommendation is coming from this board, from this committee to the board, formula and factors for this particular project. Does that feel, am I?
It does, but to me, I would have this very much.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
Not even two parts within one, two separate. We had to deliberate and come formula, because we're in building mode here at the service commission, all service commissions are. Here's a formula recommended motion, and then here's a motion about this, the aquatic center that has the factors.
I'm fine with that.
Probably what you're saying there. I
Yeah, no, and I'm
didn't
fine,
provide.
I'm fine with that, because I hear
Yeah.
people saying, we don't wanna be having to come up with a new formula every single time.
No.
But we can change the factors, they're variable.
Rules the factors.
Okay. Okay.
I like the distinction of formula and factors.
Mhm.
So the formula captures the principles that everybody agreed to, what should be considered for discount. Now, how much is determined where the asset is and
Yeah, and the only fly in the ointment a bit is if we start moving. I know we want this to be one format. If you come down to a sub-regional discussion, you know, there may be parts of the region that are not paying because we've determined it's sub-region. We can still use the same formula.
The formula works, so you
The
just,
formula still
I've done
works.
this multiple times, like, we're having a discussion a few weeks' time on, you know, some things related to healthcare.
Yes.
In a sub-region aspect. All I did was take my calculator and I stripped everybody else and it readjusted the averages to reflect who's left.
What you would have considered that to be a region,
Correct.
sub-region.
But it's still the same
Yeah.
factors, but they'll readjust, right? So the travel distance times readjust to whatever, because obviously if you left them at 29 and you have a sub-region, everybody's never gonna get a factor because they should be closer than 29 minutes conceivably, right? So, but once you take them all out, it might readjust to 13 minutes. And then that's, it's good to make the difference between the factor and the formula.
And
So
there's
the
certain
formula should
principles,
work.
and there are principles within the formula, like that we're basing it on, you know, travel distance, which is time, times distance. The host community picking up discount, that all those values should be.
Populations
constant.
based on last
Population.
census data.
Yes, so our formula should be, yeah, I think it should be clear when we're explaining the formula, all of those things, so that they don't change, they are constant.
Yes,
And then specify what can change, what factors can change.
right. And we say they're constant. This is what will precipitate the change. A new census would come out, that would
Yes,
precipitate the
that's right.
change.
Yeah.
Every year, assessment status changes
Yeah.
and resultingly this will change. So
The contribution
new
amount,
roads would make a difference. It actually would make a difference.
the contribution amount will change annually depending on tax base and the population for sure. These are two factors that.
If you were gonna say something? No, okay.
So,
Just thinking.
That's
moving on, so Mr. Chair, if we're gonna address the other discount factor, which is, like facilities. And this is where there's a lot of debate as to, is it similar owned by the municipality or does it matter who owns it as long as, the community members have access to it, it's perceived as it's theirs. It's in their community. Is it 80%? Is it 90? Is it 70? Is it 50? Is it 10? Again, the idea was to ensure, if you're building something that your community have it within their boundaries, it's again, more likely that they would naturally gravitate to that facility. So just like folks will less likely to travel for an hour to come to the asset, but they still have to contribute something. Similarly, you have a similar asset within your community, you're less likely to use somebody at an asset that's further away, it's not in your community, and hence the discount would be significant. Now, the word significant means different numbers to different people. This is a starting point. And I can tell you what it would translate if it's increased or decreased. And then this is the next discussion topic, I guess.
So I'll start.
Please.
Yeah, so, this was the one even that we questioned the last time when we looked at this was, first off, the 80% seems arbitrary, but there might be an explanation for it. My greater, and then the concern, I don't understand the rationalization for the host community having to pick up a discount on like facilities, and that's how I understood it's been done, right? That we're picking up the full discount on the like.
What's the alternative? If the host community
Well, I
is
would
not,
have thought all of the communities would, I don't know what the alternative is. I mean, I do have thoughts, whether they haven't been fully flushed out. I'll share my concerns. I think it's a significant amount. I don't know how we would have gotten to.
It's $1.5 million.
Yeah, but it's the 80%. I think what really needs to be pointed out, Fredericton has 3 pools. We already have, so if we're not getting a discount, we have the YMCA, which we don't own, but probably have a similar relationship with to what Ormocto would have with the base pool. We have the Fredericton Indoor Pool, which we pay for entirely, and we have the UNB pool, which we contribute to every year. So we have like facilities in the multiples. Not only are we not receiving a discount for any of those,
You
That's
pick it
not
up the
being
tab.
factored into the formula. We gotta pick up the tab to give another community a discount, a community we're very, very fond of. But nonetheless, we have to, and I can't rationalize that in my brain at all, and if I can't rationalize it, I certainly can't explain it to anyone, because it doesn't make sense to me. People on the north side of Fredericton are going to go to the Fredericton indoor pool. They're not going to travel over to the Grand Harbor. The Fredericton indoor pool is a lovely pool. I mean, there's some things that they can't do there, but for the most part, I mean, that competitive swim teams train there, right? So for the most part, you can do a lot. I don't know how I rationalize, like I say, they're not taking the discounts for one thing, but then absorbing the full discount for another community who actually has less access to aquatic infrastructure than Frederictonians do.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I don't know if that's gonna help rationalize it or not, but something to consider is what's the alternative? And if this discount is, reduced, that means the community who's receiving the discount is not getting the discount, hence the host community is not picking up anything.
Or picking up all for the travels.
In that sense, similar assets, right? So that's.
So why does why does the host community have to pick up the discount because another community has a lake facility? I don't understand that rationalization. I could get the travel one, they're traveling in,
Well, let's look at the alternative. Who else would pick it up?
well, why wouldn't it be divided amongst all the communities?
Because that would put this model becomes pricier than the provincial guideline.
It's not as much as who's pick it up, it's why are we discounting?
Okay,
John, I'll apologize before I even start. I'm sorry. They do not own the base pool. I don't know if you have an MOU, I don't know what you have, it doesn't matter. It's not their ownership. So I'm floored at why they get out of the formula that all the other 12 municipalities are in. I don't often agree with Kate, but I agree with her 110% on this. So,
before we get into the amount of the discount, which is for discussion, the principle is, like I mentioned before, just like you get a discount for travel, because you're less likely to use that asset if you're further away. The same principle was relayed to us during the workshop sessions, that if there is a similar asset within the community, the likelihood of folks using a different asset in somebody else's community are less, and hence there needs to be a discount factor. So that was as a result of input we received during the workshop. Just like we received input on time and distance, like assets was something to be considered.
So why wasn't it applied to Fredericton, given that we have 3 pools?
Because it's the host community. And if the host community is not picking up the discount and other communities are, then this model becomes more financially onerous than the provincial model.
Well, it is more onerous on us by $400,000, which is a lot of money. And even for Fredericton, $400,000 is a lot of money. There's a lot that we can do with that.
So in principle,
And I
for the same
can't
reasons,
rationalize it. I can rationalize the travel. I cannot rationalize the discount on the.
Is Arcadia not as close to the base pool as Oromocto?
that's for discussion for sure. Like if.
Well, I
the
didn't
same
do the
discount-
math, but I'm sure they are.
If the same principle is applied to the circumference or how close you are to that asset, then you get a discount. Again, who's gonna pick it up? So it's all good for discussion. In principle, this is why the numbers for discussion.
I can tell you if I speak for Arcadia, because it is actually a good example, because my residents would drive further to this regional aquatic center, because they do at times go to the base pool. But they also go to the Fredericton indoor pool and the Shermack State Pool because of what's available, like the availability of programming more than anything, and the schedules around the programming. So it's options for us, and they're a little bit more limited when it comes to the base pool, because just from and this is purely personal experience, they're a lot more limited to the public because there's the major contributor is the base community. So
I think they're the full.
They take
You
priority.
guys don't pay anything for that pool, I don't think, do you?
It operationally?
Yeah.
No, we don't, you know, and it's everything everyone's saying too, if I can get my own 2 cents.
You go for it.
Is, you know, I agree with all of you. The only issue that I have with the whole thing, when you take like assets out, is there's no benefit to my community. And I said this before in other meetings, but we're the only group that gets totally screwed by either way. Because we're the second largest. We have a lot of assets to which we need to operate, maintain. I need that money to stay in my community, and I can't always be the second largest payer of everything that we decide to build regionally. I can't afford it. But at least if I know I have a like asset. And the other part we have to this is we do have data. We do have user data to show that there's only half a dozen people who travel outside of Oromocto to access, you know, swimmings, that sort of thing, that goes beyond what we're talking about. Like, so that's the competitive side, right? For people who want to learn how to swim so they don't drown, they have access in our community. Do we own it? No. Is it perfect? No. But I also have to rationalize the people that pay me who are saying, we'd rather just not have this pool altogether. And quite frankly, they'd rather not see this project go ahead, period.
And I
That's
can say
not in
the
the
same
best
thing for
interest of the
Central York,
region, right? It's
but we're
not
willing to support.
100%, so that's why I'm here, but at the same time, I'm not saying the 80% is the right factor, I don't know, we need to talk about that. Cause again, that's a factor in the formula, but I believe in the formula. I do believe in the formula, I think it's solid, the factors we can debate, and this is one of those ones we need to debate.
so
And this is for you, Mr. Chair, to the committee members. Is there a factor that might be more palatable at a lower rate? Or is it just a wash at zero, or what would that look like? Is there something, because don't forget, at some point in the future, this could be turned, this could be in another situation.
But we're already proving it doesn't work though, because we're saying we're not applying it fairly. We're giving the discount to one community and we're not giving a discount to another community. I mean, we have three
Yeah.
pools and we're not receiving, and again, not only we're not receiving the discount, we're not, we're being charged the discount that another community is receiving. And so it just already, I think we're seeing a crack, a flaw in the formula and the fact, I don't know, I think it's formula and factors in this case. I don't, because the formula could maybe pick it up by saying, the discount that communities receive is spread amongst all the communities. That would be one way that the formula could pick that up. The flaw in not, and I know you're saying it won't work because it makes the other communities have to pay more, but again, that we've lucked out that it's Fredericton who everybody thinks is money bags, that we are the ones that are picking up $400,000 extra. Might not always be us, so.
It won't be, but
No.
we don't know what's coming down the road, project B, C, D, and E, or whatever, then there will be.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind just telling you, I got a project coming down the road. It's gonna be a $50 million plus project. Do I expect the whole region's gonna pay into it at this point? I don't know. Is it sub-regional? Absolutely. Is it regional? Probably not, but it could be up for discussion at some point. But then that's where I've tried to use this calculator to look at it the other way, and where I would like, absolutely, Fredericton gets a yes for like facilities because they have them. And I'll take that, Don. But I understand that the pool is a bit weird, but then again, it goes back to what we said yesterday and say, okay, well, is it unique? Because Fredericton's already got 3. So is our problem there in this case? I don't know. We're trying to jam a round hole in a square peg in a round hole sometimes, but at the same time, I totally understand that from Fredericton's standpoint, if their citizens have access to 3 pools currently, then, why not apply the same rationale as is applied to us? That makes sense to me too.
And we've been able to swallow that, I think, because it is more, like those pools do things, and Grant probably can weigh in here, because I think you've been part of the bigger discussions, which I've not, I believe, or maybe you have, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's
But-
more from an access, from a program.
Yes, I mean, it's a modern
Right.
facility versus ours, which the newest of ours is still 1980s or something, right? Like it's definitely better. So I could have supported all the uniqueness, and I can even appreciate, because it's unique, why the 3 that we have the discount doesn't apply. I appreciate you're saying not, but I could gather that. I just don't know why we pick up the full discount. I would be curious as to what happens if the discount warm up bill gets spread amongst all of the communities.
That's where you and I disagree.
Yes, there you go.
Uh,
How would you do it? Like, what's the alternative?
I said this yesterday, I said it again today, I apologize to John.
Oh,
I think it just should be gone. It should be, this is the formula, we work on the formula. What goes around comes around, there'll be projects down the road for something else. And I think if we get into bending this, it'll cause chaos, and that's my opinion.
what's the?
And I don't think you should be picking up the whole tab, and I don't want to pick up part of your tab.
Okay, fair enough,
So,
fair enough, but I don't blame.
just one quick thing, there are benefits to the host community, right? Other than just the facilities, the knock-on benefits where people are in the community, right?
That, to me, that's why the travel discount, well, that's why.
That's how you justify it.
I can justify it from the
The
travel
travel
discount.
discount.
I think I'm probably with David on this, probably all of this is a little off. For me, because I respect entirely what John's saying, but I don't fully agree, because if I can wrap my head around that even with 3 facilities, this regional one is unique, I would think Morimoto, that has actually even less access to to aquatics facilities than us, how they wouldn't also be able to, like, if we apply the same thinking to what you're doing, as I'm applying to mine, they really would not, it would not be like facility, it's a unique facility.
Compared to what exists in.
Compared to what exists in Fredericton, so probably maybe the issues with the discount, just overall with the discount. But I want Ormuckto to play, and I know that that's how they play, so it's tricky.
It is, yeah, because I mean, if I said, hey, look, take the light facility off, it's 50-50 for me. I don't get a discount, so it's 50-50. There's no motivation for us to play, right? From that perspective. Now, there's, the inspirational piece and that we all want to work together, and I do, I have a group of people that pay me money to do their best interest, so that's what I'm doing here. If I was sitting on the board, I might speak differently because I'd be wearing a different hat, but here I've got I know who pays me and I know what their interests are in this case, and it's not the current model that the government has suggested, which is 50-50. Which if we end our formula at travel, that's what it'll be for a month.
David?
As being a director on the board with Mayor Kate, I go back to the collaboration model. We've talked that from day one. So if we start bending this formula for likes or for different aspects, I don't see collaboration built into that. And to me, that's not the mandate we set out here at the board.
So basically, if we want a formula that we can use over and over again, like never comes into play. It's not that.
In my opinion, no. But I'm only one of 13, 14 around this table.
Well, and it kind of contradicts the regional asset, like the regional asset says it's unique or it's exceptional, it's the only one of its kind, whatever, right? So for regional infrastructure, the discount should, I think sub-regional for sure, but regional, the whole idea of it being a regional piece of infrastructure is that there's none like it.
Well, I would say unique is one thing, but the other things we talked about is ease of access, unique. There's five.
Value to the entire region
Region.
is number 6. The variety of
Programming.
programming and the scale, whether local, provincial, national. And accessibility and uniqueness, yeah, those are those.
So that, I mean, that applies.
That's how we came up with this. is
But I
yeah.
am concerned, like maybe I literally am in the middle. Cause I agree with everything that Dave is saying, but I also do want Ormocto to be at the table.
We've deemed it regional.
Regional.
That's off the table, I'm assuming right now. So if we've deemed it regional, we have to have collaboration. That's
Oh,
Let's have it on.
yeah.
all I'll say.
Yes, yeah, no, I mean, I think we came up with this yesterday, we cannot separate. The collaboration is financial, right? We're not all holding hands, we're holding each other's pockets.
But if we're in this together.
Yes.
Rather than time and distance.
Yes,
That separates some of the users, time and distance. Other than that, I think we gotta collaborate and be in this together.
and I guess that.
And again, I apologize.
No, I respect everything. I'm just, I'm looking at it strategically and I'm saying, when I say we're at 50-50, there's gonna be multiple communities at the same. So how are you going to get them to buy in at the director's table? And the other piece was, as I mentioned yesterday, my fear was I was gonna get this thrown against me as we've agreed it's regional now, and so now I have to play. No, I am gonna tell my director to vote against it being regional, because that's what they'll want. I mean, I'll consult with our council the best I can, but hey, they might as well roll their dice and have the government force them to go 50-50. What's the difference? That's the political side here.
The difference is I don't want the government forcing
Mhm.
our
You don't,
municipality.
But hey, we're the second biggest player here and I don't really, and again, I apologize if I sound like I'm trying to stomp on the little guy, but I'm not. I just want people to recognize that I've got a cell list to my council. They're not motivated for a pool. Fredericton knows this. I mean, the smaller group knows this, so I
New
want
York
to
is
make.
not motivated for a pool at all. But we're willing to be a partner.
Yeah.
Yes,
Through you, Mr. Chair, members, the motivation for the pool is one thing, because that's usually driven for a couple of factors, whether it be, total usage or financial. But when we look at the region wide and the benefit, you look at this from what's it going to benefit? Well, don't forget, this also has to go back to the other core foundational pieces that we're doing right now, whether that be through sport tourism, whether that's an economic development. Hear more and more people asking companies when they're coming in, looking at the Fredericton region or the capital region. What are your access to assets in there, your sport, cultural and recreation? We've heard it through times with the physician recruitment. I think, Director Rogers, last year, you and I were at the one at the gallery. One of the young residents who expressed to me that they like the ability to go out and be able to get out on a mountain biking trail, go out and do some canoeing, kayaking, like all the cultural events in terms of this, whether it be a music festival or down in the park, or whether it's in the Nashwauk, get named the Jamboree, or out out in Oromocto with your Pioneer Days or whatever those may be. People like the sense of community. And we've got to look at how do we move this forward in the best interest of the region. Not just within our communities. And then maybe look at, because this, not doing the pool is probably not, it's not probably, it's not gonna be an option because we'll get an option made for us, as you said, Director DeBussy. That's not something you want, and I don't think anyone wants that. So we have to come around this table to be able to put something forward to the board that we can live with. And I think Mr. Chair, you were going to say something on that.
Could I just say a little to John's statement? Central York, we don't really want to be part of the pool. But with everything that's spun off from the pool, which being professionals here, all kinds of spin-offs, they'll come to Central York, they'll boat, kayak, fish, hunt, four-wheel, snowmobile. We're getting to spin off one. That's why we're willing to be a part. Do we want it? Not really, our taxpayers don't want it, but we are willing to be a player because of the spin from what you just said. And I gotta shut up, I've said too much today already, so
Never too much.
I think. I hate to use the word unique. Because. Why we're here today. And this model that's being put in or imposed upon us by the province with, on a regional perspective. Is. Probably gonna eat my words. Is to help us make more reasonable decisions on a regional basis. We may not have been looking at. A big pool in Oromocto and 4 pools in Fredericton. If we could have gone back in time. Because is there a need for that amount of investment in pools in the area? I don't know. It just, we're looking at this at a go forward basis of making better reasonable decisions to benefit the region, which is really growing. All of us are growing. And that's clear from the last number of years in terms of our census data. I understand some of the opinions of Oromocto in terms of justifying contributing to a regional project when they have something in their backyard. I understand that. And I understand the host communities suggesting that absorbing travel distances is hard, but it can be done. Absorbing like facilities in another community might take a little bit of, it's a lot to swallow. Is there some adjustment in the factor that might work versus just completely eliminate the fact? I can't guess as to what it's going to work. John, you talk about a $50 million project that you may think of down the road. There's no doubt we're gonna start talking about these things. When we have something new, we're gonna look at each other and go, is there anything in my community that's like? We have the 2 biggest communities right here, Oromocto and Fredericton. And it's gonna be largely you two that are probably back and forth with each other.
So I was supposed to be something,
Yes.
I cheated out of the other one, but I can't this one.
No.
All I was going to say is, I'm glad that, I think that's why we met today. I think we've exposed a crack.
Yes.
Is that we've exposed the problem area as opposed to abandoning everything and as opposed to saying this isn't regional. And I would hope that we would instead try to get this sorted out because I want this regional piece of infrastructure to be built and I want us to all be part of it. I think you're hearing, we're not happy with a couple of things, but I feel maybe there's some room to tweak. Whether we can look at it,
You're the
and-
ones.
yeah,
This
like
is
I
us.
don't want us to abandon it, I don't feel that we're in a position to make a decision, I mean, we don't have anything in front of us to make a decision on, we know we don't like some of us are concerned, we don't like that part of it, but maybe we can try to refine it, try to have some discussions.
So we want to get to a point where we're doing something with forward and.
Yes.
Bring a recommendation.
We gotta bring a recommendation. Is there a percentage that would be done? Or is it out?
I don't even,
That's hard to determine, you know, I mean,
That's
the other part, just in simple context from probably, I'll say, Muckle and Fredericton is that there's a lot of assets that we have that are costly to continue to recap, replace, which a lot of communities don't have. And that's affecting it's certainly affecting my council's decision making when they know they have $200 million worth of recap on infrastructure that's all the same age. Because it was all built in 1966. We do not, we are in a hard spot. People might think that got lots of money too, but you know, we have to be careful about that because people are wondering why their pipes aren't being fixed when we're sending money down the road to build a pool. And that's the reality that we face. So we want to be on board. We want to do it in a way that is collaborative as well. But I mean, for context, that's another. I can go Sunbury, York South, doesn't own anything, don't even own the roads. So you want to talk pools, sure, whatever, right? So those are real life grindy examples that I really need this group to understand. I know Fredericton does for sure. And there's some other communities that do have some assets like the Nakowitz and the Minto Chipmans, but.
And there's other communities that want assets.
that one.
Right,
So it's a difference of $170,000 sheet, right? The two formulas, if I did my math correctly, it's around.
177, 577.
Yeah, so it's, and it's close to 400, like, so I don't, yeah, they're real amounts of, it's money that would go elsewhere. So I think what's incumbent on us is to convince our citizens that it's worth the 177 or it's worth which yeah.
yeah, and then you're right, I mean, it's 177,000.
Year over year over year. Like,
Year over
yeah,
year.
no, I'm not
That
making
when
light of it.
When I take that and I put it against my debt service, it's actually 3 or 4 million.
Yes, that's right. No, I know, I wasn't making light of it. I'm saying it's a real amount
Right.
that it's big enough that we all have to be able to explain it. So I'm kind of agreeing. I just think that we can, I don't know, I trust the folks at GEMDAP that they can help it. You've heard the conversation. I think maybe if you can think about another way to address it. And maybe it's not calling it a discount so that, because I appreciate everything David said, do you get a discount? You're all in and you're being collaborative. Should you get a discount and who gets a discount and who doesn't? Maybe it's something else that we need to consider in that formula.
Don, you have a point? Don?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's nothing inherently evil about the cost sharing that's laid out in the Act. So you may want to compare what each community would pay under that Act and under this formula. I guess my observation is that you are probably not looking for the optimal solution, but you may be in search of the least objectionable alternative. So that's my observation.
No, thank you. And I would think that I nodded my head, the least objectionable. It's kind of on that. But you have on the screen.
Well, that's the comparison between, alternative, B and C, provided that we didn't change the factor for like, it's still at 80%. But I'm not sure if,
The 50-50, do we have a sheet with the 50-50, the province's default
yes,
population and?
yes.
That's just total discount before discount or total contribution before discount on
Yeah,
your.
so the first alternative B total contribution here is the provincial model, if you wish.
Yes.
And this here is alternative C with 80% discount on like, for like a 3.5 on Diamond Districts. These are the discounts here. So, Fredericton is picking up 378,000 as a result of the discounts.
Right.
Some communities are benefiting, and others, it's a moot point for them, yeah, so. That's the reality of it. I don't know how it's gonna be possible to not have the host community pick up the discounts. That would only mean the other communities will have to contribute in picking that up, which means alternative C in this case becomes more financially onerous on them. It's doable in a hypothetically, but the model would mean that, it's either folks are neutral, no impact one way or another, or they're paying more with alternative C, and hence the level of support for such model, I can only assume will be minimal.
Kate was okay with picking up the travel time.
Yes.
It's,
But she also mentioned how come we're picking it up, not distributed over, it was two things that.
Yeah.
She mentioned, so,
but she was okay with the picking the tab up on travel time.
okay,
Because they're the host community, it's in their territory.
so that leaves one thing that she's not okay with, which is the discount on like for like.
Yes.
So there's only one thing then?
If you go to alternative C and put 0,
That, in this case, what's gonna happen, the deficit or the discount picked up by Fredericton would be 200,000. And Oromocto's contribution would be the same because they wouldn't be getting any discount basically.
does that all add up? Oh, sorry, I'm not questioning it whether it adds up or not.
It seems to,
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Seems to add up. So this should be 0. And,
I see ours,
And in this model, we're the only one that's affected in the case of the pool.
No.
But
that, the discount, sorry, that, I know my numbers.
it should not change.
It redistributed there. So if you go back and try to put, if you go back to alternative C,
Yeah,
oh, sorry, no, sorry, I was looking at the wrong column.
no, it should,
It stays the same.
this should only impact
Yes,
Oromocto and
yes,
Fredericton.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, basically, the time and distance, cost to Fredericton is 200,000. And these are the communities who benefit. And the others, it's no financial benefit. But if we apply like for like, only Oromocto and Fredericton would be impacted with no impact on anybody else, so.
in this case, right? But so what I did with it to give myself context is I used my own project and I stuck y'all in. And I went around and I went to everybody who I knew had a library, had an arena, had a gymnasium, and I put yes, 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 yes. And I went, hey, that's fair. I'm picking up the tab for whatever you have. You got an arena, I'm not gonna charge you for that, because you need to maintain it and keep it up and do all that. So that's where I was trying to place some context in there, right? Because
John, you're not maintaining the pool.
no, but if you had an asset that you had in your community that you weren't, but it was there, then I applied that too. Right? Like if you had a gymnasium at the school, you don't maintain that, but I'm sure there's an agreement that folks can rent the gym at the school and use it. I just said yes. Because why would you want to have to pay for another gymnasium when you already have access to one in your community? Whether you own it or not, people don't care. They wanna say, hey, I can rent the gym, play basketball Saturday mornings at 10. doesn't matter that the gym isn't run by the municipality. What matters to them is they have access to that particular event or to allow them to do those things. So to me, that's the hard part in our community is that there are a lot of things that we have access to now. It's not the same level of access, so we're certainly open to discussing the factor in terms, is it 80%? Is it maybe in this case, it's only 50%? Certainly, but there is absolutely no doubt that we have people who just go down the street to the base and go swim.
Yeah, like to me, when I'm just listening to that term, like facility, like if you want to apply it to the pool piece, it's not like the 25-meter 5-lane pool at the CFB Gagetown is not like the proposed 25-meter 10-lane pool here. Like yes, you can hold swim lessons, you can do your Red Cross water safety and a few other, but it's not a like facility. It's fundamentally a different facility. So it's similar to saying, we've got one Olympic size ice surface in the region. And it's sort of similar to saying, if Oromocto was going to propose to build, like if there was a need for another Olympic size ice surface, then that's a like facility in my mind. It's exactly the same type of facility. You can hold the same sorts of sanctioned events. Unlike if you build, an NHL size rink, to me is not like an Olympic size rink. Or if someone was to build a AAA ballpark, it's not like the ballpark over in Marysville or all our ballparks behind our local rinks and stuff, right? So I'm just sitting back listening, like that term is problematic, I think. And whether it can be corrected by lowering the discount or if it's just fundamentally a problem.
Yeah.
Like maybe you only can use that type of factor when you're building the exact same type of thing, like another Olympic size ice surface or another, I don't know what other comparison you can make, but that might be something we've got to consider. And in this case, since it's really like we said yesterday, like this pool is unique, well, then it's not we don't have another like facility really. From a different definition and so maybe you can't use that.
Yeah, I mean, and then to that point, that's where I like the idea of having a discussion on the factors, because again, when I look at programming recreationally, and no, it's not exactly like for sure, because there's certainly more programming can be done. But we can do all the things that our citizens that we, the life safety, the Red Cross, they're all accessible to people in our community. So in this case, I have no problem trying to rationalize a discussion on the percentage for this case, because the next one that comes, maybe the percentage is different depending on whatever the asset is. But I still believe in this formula, because I do think it's fair when you try to say, well, gosh, if there's a gymnasium that you can rent in your community and somebody decides to build a field house, which isn't exactly the same, but you can go to your Saturday morning and play basketball with your friends in downtown Gagetown, if you will, versus driving to a field house that's built in central York now. Your community's you should get some kind of a factor discount if you, because at least fundamentally.
I look at that, John, like, yes, we have an arena. And the ice surface is, it's the regular ice surface. And if somebody was going to build Fredericton North or Fredericton somewhere or Hanwell was going to build a 7,000 or 8,000 seat arena, yes, the ice surfaces are the same. Central York would be one of the first probably to buy in, because we don't have a facility that will accommodate professional hockey in the city. And yes, we got same ice surface, but it's a whole different entity, in my opinion. And that's, I guess I say that because, yes, you have things in this, Grant has said, there's some similarities, but the similarities are not unique.
Yeah, and but that, then again, there's where I might use and say, look, that if that's great, but maybe you should get a 10% discount in this case, if that's what we're building, because it would be similar for anyone, because yes, we know we don't have a 6,000 seat arena anywhere in our region. If we felt that's something the region needs, then, you know, maybe everyone who does have an arena might get a slight edge off from the 50-50 because you do run and operate one, and there will be people in your community that want no part of sharing in the cost of a 6,000 seat arena. But at least you can go back and say, yeah, but we debated that and we did get a slight discount because we have access to an arena in our community.
So I think the net here is that we don't have any resolve. We've got some notional, we've got agreement on, we need an essential, we need a formula that can replicate it over and over again. And we need factors.
I think we need a resolve today. This is go on and on and on. John, what's 10% do? John threw the number out by the state.
Well, if I say, one of the things that,
Basically, 23K picked up by Friday. And, Toronto receiving 23K, 22,197.
yeah, the net, and that means that, it's a wash at 50-50. That's what you're saying. It's a wash, we have.
Yeah, it is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if we go with a default provincial.
If we
formula,
go, then
50%
we're at
of
the
it.
same in
You're at
this
the same.
case, right? So there, you know, and so is 6 other communities that you gotta consider here.
Yes.
Because they're all gonna sit around the table and say, well,
What can we do? And hopefully, we want them to sit around the table like we are saying, we need a very, strong region.
right,
But
but
we
they're,
need to then see that side of it.
you're right, but they don't have the benefit of the debate and the discussion
No,
we've had,
no.
right? And they also don't all have the benefit of having staff to support them in
Yeah.
making those decisions
Yeah,
either.
no.
So,
I know, I take that.
Could you live with 10%?
no,
What about 25? No, seriously, what about the 25?
I
I
could-
just say that would be.
I could try to get them to go 50 because they would, I mean, I'll be honest, that I could probably try to sell 50-50. But, I mean, I'll, look, if it's the majority of the group that settles on whatever that percentage, I'll try to sell it. I don't get the final decision. That's not me. I'll let them know both sides of the coin, and then it's my mayor and the council, and council will tell the mayor how they want him to vote. That's how that will work, but.
I think John said it best. We're looking for the least objectionable,
Yeah, for sure.
but the least amount of discomfort around the board table is what's going to pass. Frankly,
All we can do is recommend the board.
all we can do is recommend a board to award, make a decision.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
I may, you're just looking that we're starting to go along in the conversation
Yes,
today.
yes.
And we were long yesterday, and I've got all the time, a lot of people around this table are my bosses, so, I got all the time in the world. Maybe what we would do is look at a suggestion, we could do one of a couple of things. One, we could look at kind of walking away today and coming back over the next week or two to get a sense. I know you're gonna be away, but Director Plessy is the vice chair. You could tell a meeting in your absence to look at this. I could run a few more, some other numbers. I mean, it's pretty simple. We just have to plug the numbers.
Very
in.
simple.
Um,
What's not simple though, John, is what I heard about the host community getting discounts. Like there's new principles being introduced that are not in the formula.
Well, we understood from the host community that the distance one
She's good.
is palatable.
But we also heard that you'd expect discounts for having pools in the community.
She's saying that because Orinoco.
Because of the light
Yeah.
facility piece.
She doesn't agree with the discount coming from Orinoco.
And Mr.
And
Chair,
he's trying to put forth her weight because of that.
and Mr. Chair, through you to the members, I think she also said though, that she wanted Orinoco to be on board. She wants, she wants Orinoco in this as well as everybody. So we could either kind of walk away, think about it for a little bit and come back, or alternatively, we could start to put our package together. And within the, meet, on a special meeting of the board, perhaps sometime mid-April. Maybe the week of the 13th, I think you're back at that point. The week of the 13th, sometime that week. Do a meeting in which we present all of the scenarios to the board. 0, 10%, 25, 50, 8, whatever that may look like. Just to have the board think about it. And then no decisions to be made on that day, just conversation. And then come back a couple of weeks later to potentially have that, a couple of weeks or after the May meeting. Don't put it on the May meeting, there's a lot on that particular meeting. Maybe the week after the meeting, have another meeting of the board to specifically address the regionality and the cost of the pool. And then we know that we have a go forward or that we have to come back as a group or come back as a board before we hit that June 30th target time.
Jeff may have.
Yeah, Jeff, sorry, Mr. Chair, taking over your role, I don't need to, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just sitting here quietly observing the conversation. I guess my observation is a few things. First is, I think you're very close. I think there's more agreement here than disagreement. I think there may be a couple of points of departure in the very specifics of the factors, but I sense a pretty good alignment around the principles and the general formula. So that kind of encourages me that this is doable. I'd like to just remind the participants too that there's risk here in not reaching an agreement. And it may not be just as simple as, well, we'll roll the dice, maybe the minister will deem this one as a regional facility. If you look down the road in St. John, there actually are 5 regional facilities. The Trade and Convention Center, the St. John Arts Center, the Imperial Theater, for example. These are all things which have been put into the formula and are now being cost shared by all the regional participants. So I don't think it's a risk that the minister might deem the pool regional. He or she at the time may deem a number of facilities regional if it's not a collaborative recommendation from this group. So, I guess just a reminder, I think it's in everybody's best interest to come up with a recommendation that you're aligned on. My last observation is it seems that if you look at the last spreadsheet that's on the in front of us here right now, the 2 most impacted participants of the like facility factor for this example are Oromocto and Fredericton. It would seem to me to be helpful that if those 2 entities could reach an agreement on what the factor is, that might help accelerate some of the conversation. And, I don't know to what degree the other participants, want to have a lot of say in that. But these ones obviously have skin in the game. So, if Fredericton and Oromocto were to have a sidebar before your next conversation to arrive at some level of agreement on what they can each live with, that might help accelerate your next conversation. Thank you.
That's reasonable. I think that's reasonable to ask for. I think what we do have to come to
I'm
arrangements.
prepared to come to a recommendation. it's not gonna be what some will want.
Hmm.
You said Mayor Powell's gonna vote against regional anyway.
No,
You've told us.
no, I mean, if I can convince them and give them enough support to say, hey, look, this is fair and it's a good deal, I'm hoping to turn them over, yeah. If it's just, well, this is what the 50-50 model is anyway, I'm not, won't be successful for me, I know that.
How about this? Let's take what was here today with respect, I think we had some agreement that there's a difference between formula and factors. The formula, we said it.
I think we all agree 80% is too much.
It's gonna be a hard pill to swallow. From two sides, the one with 7 votes, one with 2. It's gonna be a hard pill to swallow. If we can model out what that looks like at a few different percentages below that, and get it out to everybody on this committee. And then come at it again. And I think we want to explain, I mean, we can start working on the and you have a lot of the explanations of the factors, right? Why they're in there, what they mean. Get it on paper in the back, we can get that on paper to the back to the board members, and I think we convene again. I don't like the idea of having a lot more meetings on this. We've got to really get.
And we can't throw too many options out, too many.
No,
too
we
many
can't.
percents,
We
because
can't.
that causes chaos on board.
We can't.
They either gotta vote yes or no.
We gotta, I think we gotta deal with this amongst ourselves first to get it to the board in a special meeting in April. I think we have to.
To present it to the board, oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, to present it to the board and then have the board be able to absorb that,
Yes,
ask their questions.
yes,
And then come back in May for a vote. A
yes,
specific vote on this particular project.
Cause then it gives those groups time to take it back to the respective councils, have a conversation based on the information, the same information provided to everyone, right?
Hmm.
And that's probably the best way forward, yeah.
So let's get the options sent out to us. So we're all looking at the same numbers. I know we kind of notionally did it today, but we went long, so we lost Kate, I know. The city's a very important part of the factor as well, so.
Don't worry, they're listening.
Always. And we just get it out, and I think we have to reconvene. I really do. It's an important thing.
Mr. Chair, if I may
Yes.
just remind folks that everything in the model and the formula was built around the input we received from this table.
Hmm.
So really, we didn't invent anything, we didn't introduce factors to the formula. Yes, we suggested a starting point, but that's about it. So when we write the report, I just wanna make sure that we're not challenged on the principles that came from this table at the board level. Like, why did you consider time and distance for discount, for example? This is something that was established during the workshops here.
No, absolutely, and I think.
And why is the host community picking up the discount? Because again, that's something established early on.
I think we state those as facts. I mean, those are facts coming out of this
Thank you.
committee. No,
That's
definitely.
against you.
Yeah,
This is-
no.
Oh, you never know how it goes sometimes.
I like using the concept of progressive collaboration. That's what this is, an
Yeah,
exercise in
as-
progressive
As
collaboration.
long as we're on the same.
No, we're on the same page, but the rubber's starting to hit the road, we're seeing numbers. And I think we see 3 or 4 scenarios with all the factors kind of reinformed to everybody again.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
you're right.
from my perspective, we have covered a lot of ground since we began.
Let's do that.
The relationship with Gemtech coming in to help guide us through this has been very positive. We've seen this develop and progress where we're having very honest and real conversations, but we're narrowing the track, like we're getting to a point and we're coming together and views are being heard, communities are being heard, and the board, the committee is being heard all around the table. And then what we have to do, as Director Duplessis had said before, we haven't this committee has a responsibility to make an informed, strong recommendation to the board for consideration with all the available information. And I think we're very close. Maybe one more meeting would do it, and then we'll have maybe an option A or an option B or something along that line, and who knows what will happen at the
Ideally one.
board meeting. Ideally one that we can all live with, but if not, if there is, then at least we present to the board and we bring the board together to make that decision collaboratively. And if we all have that same fundamental foundation of information and move that to the board, I think we're gonna win. I think we're gonna have our first big win as a region in that coming together. I mean, we built our strategic plan. We got our economic development up and running very well. We've got our tourism running very well. Are there bumps in the road? Of course, there's bumps every day in everything that we do. We've got so much to be proud of when we look at our mandated services, whether it be public safety or community development, whether we look at our social mandate, whether we look at all of those things, and especially the established services that we have as a board and as a commission through planning and development and our solid waste division, we are a real going concern. We need to be proud of that. And we're starting to come together on this. And I think this will set the tone moving forward.
I'll just go on with it. I'm proud as a committee and as the chair of this committee that we're doing our job. That we're participating, really, because there's no like stepping back in the corner here. We're talking about things on a regional basis, and that's what we're here to do. That's a good thing. I'm not apathetic. Okay, so with that, do we have consensus to come back and have another meeting and turn around, say, 4 examples? Is there
I mean, do we need 4 examples? I mean, what are we talking about here? We're probably,
3 examples? So we've got the base, what we have right now is the 80%. We're putting distance and time to the side because I think we have no.
It's an agreed on deal.
It's agreed on thing. It comes down to like facility and somewhat 80% appears to be not palatable. I think that needs to be in there. And then we have to come up with, okay, 2 more. 3. So there's 80% and there's 2 besides that.
Do you mean come up with percentages?
It would be percentages,
Yeah,
yes.
but I don't think that addresses.
Or
the
and
principal
zero.
issue that the city of Fredericton had.
Well, we can say 0 can be the other one. We got where it is now 80 and we get 0. What's 2 in between that could become to something?
Is it worthwhile considering just the operational and maintenance portion of the model for the lake facility piece? Not the capital part, somehow work something where if you're operating and maintaining a indoor pool now, city of Fredericton or Muckville, that somehow there's a recognition of that, and that's where I don't know.
John says they're not paying operation.
Well,
well, we know in this particular case, no, we're not. I mean,
yeah, sorry.
but yeah, I mean, you know,
Like we've thrown $1 million in, right, as
Ongoing.
like an estimate.
Yeah.
So maybe that portion of the contribution is looked at somehow.
it's hard to
I don't
know. I
Maybe
mean,
that doesn't
this is
make
where it's gonna lead into a bigger discussion as this it evolves, right? And where I go to trying to help people find that cap and that ability to pay, because those numbers you're looking at are for the next 20 years, year over year over year over year. And for someone who has a whole bunch of assets and you start stocking them up, it's not just 110,000, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 million a year. And at some point, 110 just breaks the bridge, right? It snaps. And so, you know, my looking to see where we're at 20 years from now is to try to predict too, is should there be a cap on ability to pay that's based on the 50-50 model? That says, hey, look, once this person, once, you know, Central York ends up paying 100,000 a year, no matter what the assets are, they're tapped out, because it's all, and if their tax base grows, maybe they can squeeze out 105 the next year, but there's a risk that you're telling people, well, it's only 110. No, it's not. It's more than
It's
that,
hundred and ten year one.
year one, on top of all my other things I gotta do. So I want people to be aware of that big picture.
But little Central York, we gotta spend $1 million on a fire truck this year. And we're not very big,
Yep.
like, we have,
And I.
we don't have
I
many
had to
assets,
buy
but we have assets that need replaced also.
I get you, and it's all relevant. I mean, I just bought two for 5 million bucks.
Yeah. I think we're all in the same boat, but of a different size.
Correct.
Some don't own the boat.
I own both.
You own boats, yes. And there's some that have, yeah, it's,
I also own road graders, plows, bulldozers, arenas, fire halls, roads, water sewer treatment plants. I mean, right, so I just want to make sure that everybody has that context so it's not just about it. It is, but, you know.
and that's why every time we have this, that's why we're coming from Florida. And regional won't come across, I hope to goodness very long, unless there's a very good reason for it. And we're going to be the ones around the table, well, maybe not us. But a committee's gonna be here to make the decisions on whether it's regional or not.
And the only other point, and I know you were at this stuff last week, is it's unfortunate because what I'd really like to see is the financial
Yes.
one piece that might make me feel a lot better about saying yes to 10% versus 50%. Because I don't know how I'm gonna afford this much beyond the next few years. If this is the only model we're using.
Yes. And I, what you're saying is, I'm in that same boat and there's.
Everybody.
In that room,
Everybody.
we're
is.
broken eggs.
Yeah,
But we also have to look at Fredericton. They're picking up. They're asked to pick up the balance of this. Is that fair? She's fair picking some up. But not quite all she's asked to pick up.
yeah.
And that's where I'm hoping that we can, put us,
And that's the debate. for
That's the
sure.
debate,
Is it
so-
fair? Yeah, it can be debated. I mean, if you want, I've always said, look, I have access to Steam, right? So that's a program that tells me, like, when I have an event in my community, how much is benefited by the community. I've had my staff run Steam on a pool in Fredericton, not that impressive to me. I'm not gonna, so don't tell me it's an economic driver for the citizens of Oromocto, because it's not. That's based on data, folks, so those are the things we can do. But at the same time, they are gonna see a boom in that, because the hotels and the restaurants are gonna fill up when there's events going on, but. And things like that, and that's fair, that's why you take the burden of that on. You also get the tax base that comes from the infrastructure that's there, and we're not gonna collect on that. Their tax base is gonna grow with that $160 million piece of infrastructure that gets placed there. Mine isn't.
and I'm seeing recognition of that with the time and distance.
We saw that last year with Crab Mountain.
Yes,
We didn't make anything off the Canada Games last year. Crab Mountain City made a fortune.
yeah, because they had,
Hotels, restaurants, shopping.
Right.
and they're on board with the promotion of it as well, of course. That's what
So,
it's
you
done,
know,
Rightly so.
rightfully so, yes.
And again, it goes back to fundamentally, do we want to play? Of course we do. I'm a realist too, and there's lots of things I know. And there's lots of data I have access to because I have capacity. And those are just the things I want to try and make sure the general table hears of it.
Yes.
It's not John Jackson trying to be sticking.
So, how about we summarize what we've heard here today? Come back with 4 examples. We got the 80% where it was in the model today, we talked about the 0% and 2 in between. And we can meet.
So it's going to come back to 40 to give it.
Well, 2 examples from staff in between. I do have to go because
You gotta get ready for.
I gotta get ready to leave the country. Not because of this.
All right.
Is that okay? Okay.
So in the consensus, kind of feel, come back to this next week, or do you want to do it early the week after?
Well, I
I
understand
know
the
you're-
chair's not.
I'm not here.
You have the vice chair that can.
I'm not here either next
You're not
week
here?
now, maybe you'll like that better, I don't.
Well, no, I think
I
it's,
don't know how, we might know how this may turn out.
I think it's important that you are here, and I take Jeff's point too. Conversations between the city and Ormonto are welcome after the information is sent out. So, perhaps the week after next,
Maybe you and Steve would have a chat before we meet again.
they're listening.
Oh, have no fear, we have lots of chat.
Okay.
When that plan forward,
Plan
we'll
forward.
plan something for the week after, and then we'll go from there.
Can I get a motion for adjournment?
I so moved.
Second. All those in favor?
I
Motion adjourned, or meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone on the line. We knew this wasn't gonna be easy.
You're getting there.